You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? This is KCSN Update. I'm your host, BJ Kissel, and it's game day. Normally on Mondays, we're joined by ESPN's Matt Miller to talk about the previous game, but since the Chiefs play the Raiders tonight on Monday Night Football, Matt's going to join me, and we're just going to do a little Q&A. So if you're hanging out at work or whatever you got going on this Monday, just waiting for the game to start, we're going to take your questions, talk through a little bit about what we're expecting, what we saw from the weekend with the rest of the NFL in action, and then what we expect tonight as the Chiefs take on the Raiders again on Monday Night Football at Arrowhead Stadium. It should be a good one, but before we bring Matt on, we're going to take a quick word from our friends over at DraftKings. The NFL action is in full swing at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're talking touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. And check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. And when you look at the game tonight, I just checked the lines at DraftKings. The Chiefs are 7.5-point favorites, which is actually what it started at, went down to 7. Now it's back up to 7.5 with the over under jumping up a point to 52. Again, over under 52 against the Raiders tonight. And you look at what the Chiefs have done the last two games last year. Chiefs won 89-23 when you combine those two scores, including that 48-9 win over the Raiders at Arrowhead Stadium. But DraftKings, to make things even sweeter, they're going to let you throw down on stepped up same game parlays once per game day all season long. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code KCSN to get $200 in free bets if your team wins and you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code KCSN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes for the details. All right, Chiefs Kingdom. Now we are going to bring on Matt Miller from ESPN, my good buddy. And if you've been following any of the content that I've been a part of since, my Arrowhead Pride and then Bleacher Report and then working for the Chiefs and now at KC Sports Network, you've seen Matt and you've heard Matt before. So Matt, it's always good to see you, my bud.
Likewise, and kind of weird, like you said, being here Monday morning, no Chiefs game to break down. We don't get to do our stock up, stock down. I'll probably bother you tomorrow. I'm going to text you my stock up, stock down, even though we're not doing a video.
Yeah, I'm going to do this. Tuesday is always 5 burning questions with Nate Taylor. So we can just have you on if you want to come on with Nate. You guys can share hopefully what is another victory for the Chiefs over the Raiders. You look at some of the numbers. I mean, Andy Reid 15-3 in his career since joining the Chiefs back in 2013 against the Raiders. Patrick Mahomes 7-1 in his career against the Raiders, and then 6-1 Patrick Mahomes is on Monday Night Football. A lot of stats that all skew towards the Kansas City Chiefs and what they've done. But you look at what the Raiders have done, and I want to talk about the weekend, but real quick, just looking at this Raiders game, because I know Chiefs fans starting to tune in now because they're distracted. They don't know what to do right now with themselves.
They're waiting for the gates to open so they can go tailgate.
They're probably sitting outside Arrowhead.
I've been there for a Monday night game. Yeah.
So, but you look at the Raiders are the Raiders, and this is hard for me. And I'm going to try to get it through with a straight face. Because I know they beat the thriving Denver Broncos in their one victory so far this season. But their first 3 games of the season, they've lost all by 1 possession, 13 points total. So it's not like the Raiders have been getting absolutely blown out all season long. Now, they haven't played anybody like the Chiefs, but it's not like, they've been losing 48-9 like they did against the Chiefs last year every single week. So there is an amount of respect that obviously the players are going to show, and fans, it doesn't really matter because we're not playing. But the Raiders have not been getting blown out. It's not quite so bad, even though the Chiefs should absolutely take care of business tonight.
It doesn't look as bad as the record for the Raiders. I think coming into this game, you look at it and you're like, wait, the Raiders are 1-3, and why we heard all summer the AFC West is going to be the best division of football. Spoiler alert, it's not, not right now at least. But I think it is misleading. And to, like you said, to have 3 losses by combined 13 points does point to this team has been close. But I think we are at that point of the season, BJ, where we're trying to figure out who teams are. And with the Raiders, are they the team that beat the Denver Broncos, who don't look very good? Or are they the team that, struggled against the Chargers and struggled against the Cardinals? They couldn't put away the Tennessee Titans. So I think we are trying to figure out, was that win over Denver, the Raiders finally clicking, and we saw Devontae Adams get going? Yep. We saw Josh Jacobs running like a man possessed. Is that who they are? Or are they more like what we saw the first 3 games? I do think we'll find out more tonight. I'm with you. The line at 7.5, I feel like I would be all over that. Not as an unbiased person here, I would be all over that. It's never easy because it's the NFL, but this is absolutely a game the Chiefs should win comfortably. Yeah. And I think the only question is, okay, if they don't, what if the Raiders win, or what if this game's closer than we expect? I think that's when you can start to have, some questions and takeaways from this game. But man, headed into it, 9 hours, 10 hours before kickoff, I feel pretty good about Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm curious how far back. Matt McMullen, a Chiefs senior reporter over there, KC Chiefs Matt on Twitter, he'll have a video. He always does for every primetime game as far as how far back the line has backed up. I fully expect to be about halfway back past the Chiefs training facility, almost to 4:35 by maybe 10:30. By the time we finish this show, I'd say it's probably getting close, backed up.
I can tell you, living in Joplin, Arrowhead's about 2 hours. It's exactly 2 hours from my house, which is amazing. I have friends who were leaving Joplin at 8 this morning. They're probably going to stop and get a little breakfast barbecue or something, but they were leaving Joplin at 8 to get in line, just, for the 2:00 gate opening, I guess. So Chiefs fans no one's ever questioned their loyalty or tailgating ability.
Yeah, no, it's an experience out there. And before we talk and dive a little bit into, this game tonight and some of the matchups and some of the key things to watch, let's talk a little bit about, what we saw over the weekend, even going back to Thursday night with that brutal showing between the Colts and the Broncos. Matt, yeah. I think I might have texted you. That was the first time that I had FOMO from not watching the game by following on Twitter. My daughter didn't feel well. I was just laying next to her and I was following along on Twitter, and it was being described as like the worst football game in NFL history. If you're following along on Twitter, and I was like, I need to see this. And for all the criticism that Twitter gets, it was absolutely right. I turned it on right before like the interception that Russell Wilson threw. And it did not disappoint as being just an awful football game. But outside of that, because people talked about that, and if you have a take, please give it to me. But what stood out to you over the other football games that took place this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, starting there, I was one of those people that thought the Broncos would be good this year. And they're 2-3. There's a lot of football left to be played, as our friend Aaron Negler would say. But, man, it just doesn't feel like a team that has any cohesion right now. Like it's all these individual parts that have not come together. And I think you could say that about a lot of the AFC West right now. Even, the Chargers barely beat the Cleveland Browns. Brandon Staley almost gives away another game. If the Browns' 4th round draft pick at kicker, had nailed a 54-yarder and it was close, then, this would be a very different outlook for, I think, that division this morning. So I do think I feel like the first couple weeks of the NFL season, and I know I've said this to you in the past and I've said it on this show, is we're trying to figure out what is real and what isn't the first couple weeks. Mm-hmm. Now we're like week 5, week 6. We're starting to figure out okay, this is what is for real. This is what's not for real. I love seeing Brian Daboll and the New York Giants play out of their minds to be 4-1, to beat a team like the Green Bay Packers. Love seeing, I don't root for any team. I end up rooting for players or relationships. To see the Rams lose was very surprising to me, with but Cooper Rush being 4-0. That's the stuff that kind of gets me juiced up for the season, is to see those stories that we didn't expect. For the Eagles to be 5-0, which I picked them to win the NFC East, so I'm excited about that one. But I do think we're starting to figure out what's real and what's not. And you have to, at this time of year, almost sit back and be like, all right, what are my preconceived notions about teams? What were my expectations? And try to forget all that and really look at who teams are. and realize that, like, hey, the Seattle Seahawks are a tougher out than we thought they were going to be. That's a real football team, and kind of almost it's a good time to readjust almost.
Yeah, while you were going through that, I couldn't help myself when you're talking about, what's real over the first few weeks and what's real for the Denver Broncos. I was looking through the trade for between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks.
It's not good, man. It's not good.
Here, let's go over this again, just as a reminder for everybody. The Denver Broncos, for the trade for Russell Wilson, the Broncos got Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick. The Seahawks got Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, a 1st-round pick in 2022, a 2nd-round pick in 2022, a 5th-round pick in 2022, another 1st-round pick in 2023, and another 2nd-round pick in 2023. 2 1st-round picks, 2 2nd-round picks, and a 5th, plus 3 players who I'm not going to pretend to have followed them very closely. Obviously, Drew Lock's not playing, Geno Smith playing out of his mind. But Shelby Harris and Noah Fant are guys.
They're starters. And
playing.
I'll say, man, that pick is going to be a top 10 pick as of, I think it would be pick number 11 as of this morning, depending on what happens tonight. But it would be pick number 11 going back to Seattle, who, by the way, John Schneider was like, there was hot seat talk a year ago. The draft class they put together, Charles Harris is a stud at left tackle. Abe Lucas is a stud at right tackle. Tariq Woolen is a stud at corner. We're seeing Ken Walker get going at running back. Boy, and Mafe at defensive end. Like that draft class is a hit from top to bottom. So you give them more draft ammunition next year in a class that is markedly better, by the way. There's going to be a lot more talent available. You got to feel pretty good if you're the Seahawks right now. And I think it has made all of us kind of sit back and be like, were the things we were hearing about Russell Wilson as a football player, maybe there was some credence to that. I've had DMs over the years from players up there who are, you'll never believe the stuff that they have to deal with and kind of the eye rolls that are in the locker room. And now we see him go to what was supposed to be an improved situation, man. They have a left tackle. They got a good O-line. They got all these receivers. They got the running backs, and he's playing terribly. Like, he looks like he's holding this team back at this point. And Nathaniel Hackett deserves some of the blame as well, without a doubt, as first-time head coach. But I know Chiefs fans take a lot of joy in watching the Broncos struggle, and there's a lot of ammunition. There's a lot of points so far this year that are going to make Chiefs fans happy.
I'm trying to remain as completely unbiased as I can and professional.
You don't even have to.
I don't even. We play the Raiders tonight. It's already
over for you.
It's already feeling like I don't have. Yeah, I don't got to do that anymore. Yeah. But you talk about improved situation. Garrett Bowles breaks his leg. He's done for the year. Ronald Darby done for the year. We already know Tim Patrick injured before the season began is an underrated player that we can talk about. But one last thing about Russell Wilson is not just that they gave up all of that for him. They also can't get out of his contract until 2026.
$250 million. The 2 worst contracts in America right now are Russell Wilson and Jimbo Fisher. Like, hands down, worst contracts in sports right now are those 2 deals.
Russell Wilson was 34 years old when they gave him that contract. His dead cap next year is $107 million.
It is the salary cap. It is the entire salary cap to move on. And you have no draft picks, so you can't even be like, oh, well, he'll be 34. Let's draft a young guy. 3rd round, I guess.
That's
Cooper Rush will be available. Maybe go get Cooper Rush.
It hits the heartstrings a little bit every time we talk about Cooper Rush, because it was a conversation that I used to have, with our guy, Therese Paylor. I'll never forget arguing with Therese between Cooper Rush and Brad Kaya, and that Cooper Rush was my guy. Cooper Rush was my guy. And I was like, I would take him over Kaya. And it became a thing for us. And every time I see him, everybody talks about Cooper Rush, I immediately think of Therese. So it's kind of
right now, Brad Kaya is a screenwriter in Los Angeles, and Cooper Rush is 4-0 for the Dallas Cowboys. So
yeah, that's
you won that one.
One of the very few things. He's up there laughing right now, knowing, probably counting all the ones I got wrong. But yeah, it tugs at the heartstrings a little bit every time I hear Cooper Rush's name. But man, what else from the weekend? I know we just got done, dunking on the Broncos, but what else stood out to you besides Brendan Staley's decision that should have cost the Chargers that game and didn't? What else stood out to you? Not just AFC West, but just across the board.
Yeah, I mean, God, the Buffalo Bills, and I know that's a little bit of we're looking ahead to next Sunday. You can't do that in the NFL. We can't because we're not playing or coaching, but they look amazing. I mean, I think Josh Allen had like 400 passing yards at halftime or something. I mean, it was ridiculous. I think it was actually like 295 yards at halftime. It was ridiculous, and for them to be 4-1 and they look unstoppable right now. And I know it's like Pittsburgh is rookie quarterback and TJ Watt is out, but like Minka Fitzpatrick is still out there. Like it's not the whole team. Like Cam Hayward is still out there. They still have a lot of that core roster. And I think you look at Buffalo and it's Gabe Davis. It's getting Khalil Shakur involved. It's getting James Cook involved. They didn't have Dawson Knox. They didn't have Jordan Poyer, and it didn't matter at all. And I think they right now, just what they've been able to do outside of that one weird loss is domination. Like nothing is close to what they've been able to do this year. And it does make you wonder, like that Dolphins game was just an anomaly. Those are going to happen over a 17 game season, but what they did to the Rams, what they did to the Titans, what they did to the Steelers, those are playoff teams last year, that they've just absolutely hammered. So I think it's going to be fun, man. I can't believe it's a 3:25 game and not a Sunday night or a Monday night game, but I'm already looking ahead just because I kind of expect the Chiefs to handle the Raiders like we were saying, but I'm starting to like geek out about that matchup of, can you stop Josh Allen? Like outside of it, being a million degrees in Miami that one Sunday, I don't know what the game plan is to stop him right now.
Yeah, it goes back. You talk about the Miami, loss that they had that, the Miami win over Buffalo, just being kind of an outlier. That's kind of how I felt watching. We just dunked on the Broncos for how they played, but the Colts beat us. And
yeah, I still don't.
Like, that was
freaking idea.
Tough.
Yeah,
that's tough to swallow. But we do have a piece of breaking news. If you're searching Twitter right now, the Panthers have fired Matt Rule with, I think I saw a tweet, 11-27 during his 3 seasons. He leaves Carolina with 4 years left on a 7-year contract that he received from Panthers owner David Tepper.
Did he get like 7 years, $64 million or something to leave Baylor?
He got a chunk of change, and that's from ESPN.
And now he's going to like go to Nebraska and get paid again. So
you think that's what's going to happen?
Probably. I mean, he'll be a hot commodity without a doubt. Here's what's interesting to me, because my brain is messed up, and here's how it works. He hired Joe Brady, who was the LSU passing game coordinator for Joe Burrow, and everyone thought, oh my God, this offense is going to be amazing. It wasn't, and Joe Brady becomes the scapegoat. Do you know where Joe Brady is right now? He's the quarterback's coach for the Buffalo Bills. So it's like, it's just wild that like he gets thrown under the bus and like, no, this guy's not getting it done, gets fired midseason. He's the quarterback's coach for Buffalo, and his name he's going to be a hot name again, because of what he's doing under Ken Dorsey. So no surprise that Matt Rule is fired. David Tepper is not a patient man. He's a very wealthy man. He wants to win. We heard that all at last offseason. They were going to be aggressive in going after Deshaun Watson, and they were going to be everyone else. So not surprised. But I think that's going to be a hard job to fill. I really do. The roster's not good, and you have a gigantic, desperate need at quarterback.
Yeah, I was one of those people that I bought into I believe that Baker Mayfield was going to be better, that I thought they were going to be all right. And that has not happened at all. And so that'll be interesting to see. And I've seen a few comments over here in the chat, and we appreciate everybody who's following along in the chat room. Please send us your questions, your takes for tonight. And Tucker, our fearless producer behind the scenes, will be bringing some of those up onto the screen. We'll react to some of those. But one of the ones, and I'm going to go back and read a tweet from somebody that you and I both know, and Bobby Stroop, about the game tonight, and a record or a something that could happen that will be very fun to follow along on Twitter if it does. And Patrick Mahomes would need to throw at least 4 touchdowns for this to happen. But Bobby Stroop tweeted, if Patrick throws 4 TDs this week, he will pass Troy Aikman on the all-time touchdown list at 166 TDs. Patrick, of course, has literally thrown 100 less interceptions.
Oh my God.
Direct quote from the tweet.
Yeah.
And that Patrick would accomplish this 56% faster than Troy did. Hashtag big stats guy.
That's great,
Bobby, and the Troy's on the call, and that's what everybody
Troy's on the call, which makes it fun. And
is
I don't know,
he going to have to call? And is that nugget going to be brought up on air
I feel like Joe Buck's the kind of guy who will bring it up just because like he knows it's being talked about and he kind of wants to needle Troy a little bit. It's amazing too. Like we are old enough to have watched, and I certainly am. Like I vividly remember watching Troy Aikman from like 87 to 93, that run of greatness. The game is so different now to where, not to discount anything Patrick is doing because I think he's amazing, but that a player can in 5 years eclipse all-time great quarterbacks in terms of statistics. It's wild, and it's one of the first dominoes to fall. I mean, Mahomes is at a pace that he's set to. I mean, God willing, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to have all the records at the pace that he's going at. And I think I've said before, BJ, my son Emmett he just turned 9, and I've told him he's been a Chiefs fan as long as he's been aware of what's happening. And I've told him, man, like this is Michael Jordan with the Bulls when I was a kid, where you just get lucky at the right time and you become a fan of a team, and then they get a franchise and sport changing athlete. And that was me with Jordan. Like I was a Bulls fan, like everybody in the 90s and late 80s was probably, but yeah, it's something special, and it's one of many players that he's going to pass here quickly.
Yeah, it's going to be like, where were you, like moments, like where were you when Patrick Mahomes did such and such, or where were you when he did such, like it. I remember going to Tantera on a family vacation with my parents and my sister, and my mom and sister wanted to go out on a boat. They wanted to go have fun. And my dad and I wanted to stay because it was the first game back from Michael Jordan after he came back from playing baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Like that first game back, it was like regular. It was just like, we're watching this game. It's like, we're on vacation.
I chilled.
You're not going to sit at this resort that we paid all this money for and just sit in here and watch TV. And my dad was like, oh, yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Like,
yeah, at least
Michael Jordan. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing with Mahomes.
Hear him come out wearing 45. I do think with Mahomes, I mean, it's going to be, you guys are forever going to, where were you in 2017 when they traded up? It's one of those iconic moments of, like it's just, where were you when Drew Bledsoe got knocked out of that game? It's like, oh, okay, that's an iconic moment in the history of the NFL. And obviously for New England fans, it's something that people will always remember. And he's had a couple of those, the left hand passes and the, the craziness, being an MVP, obviously winning a Super Bowl, almost winning a second one. So enjoy it. People in my job, it's fun to like look ahead and be like, how do they stay? How do they maintain? Because that's what's been so hard. Is how do you maintain? And I think that's why it's fun to see guys like Nick Bolton playing so well so early. It's fun to see Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and starting to think about, okay, how do you keep this together? How do you plan for life after Travis Kelce, which eventually, you'll have to have another number one target in there. It does make it fun to watch college players and think about how they would slot in and when they might need to slot in. Like watch Georgia play. They have like 3 draft eligible tight ends that are amazing. Be like, God, if the Chiefs could get one of those guys, how much fun would that be?
Yeah. Who's the monster? Who's like the
Brock Bowers? What's crazy? He's a monster.
He's the good one, but who's the other?
He's the good one.
The big one.
Darnell Washington, number 0.
Guy. Yeah. That dude.
That's more realistic.
First guy coming off the bus. He's the first guy coming off the bus.
Yeah. He's the one that's realistic. Brock Bowers is next year. We can't even talk about him yet. He's 2024. But Darnell Washington, hopefully he'll be at the Shrine Game or Senior Bowl, whichever he decides to go to. And I'm very excited to see him be the guy somewhere because he is the second tight end at Georgia, and he would be the best tight end anywhere but like Georgia and Notre Dame. He would be the number one guy. I
got to share the story, and then I promise everyone that's watching this live, we're going to get to the game tonight and talk through some of the key matchups and all that. But talking about like where were you moments, I will never forget Patrick Mahomes' first start. You're talking about the left-handed pass, or not his first start, I should say, the one where he threw Demarcus Robinson. He came out, they put Tyler Bray in, and they had to put Mahomes back in the game. I was sitting next to Veach in the press box, and he was standing up like cheering, and I had to put
hey, we can't do this here.
Pull him down. I'm like, dude, you can't do that up here, especially you. You're surrounded by the media. That's gonna be the story of everybody talking about what you're doing right now. But I'll never forget both those games in Denver. But yeah, unbelievable performances. Now let's talk about what we hope is an unbelievable performance tonight between the Chiefs and Raiders. We just got done talking about how the Chiefs have had all kinds of success against the Raiders. 15-3 under Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes, I believe, 7-1, 6-1 in Monday Night Football games. I mean, they've had a lot of success under the lights. We saw it last week against Tampa Bay with one of the best offensive performances that we've seen in a really long time because of the context of who they were going up against and where they were playing, kind of, exercising those demons from the Super Bowl a few years ago. But Matt, when you look at the game tonight, what matchup stands out to you the most for the Chiefs if they're going to walk away with the victory from Arrowhead tonight?
Man, I feel like it's always this way with the Raiders, but it's the middle of the field. Jonathan Abram is a very active safety, but he's not very good in coverage. They have Jayon Brown at linebacker. He's out for tonight. I think that's going to be huge for Travis Kelce, but also for Juju Smith-Schuster. We've seen this team become more of a middle of the field offense with Tyreek Hill gone. We'll see if that changes tonight. But when I look ahead to this game last week, it was like the secondary for the Raiders against this Chiefs passing attack. That is a very, very favorable matchup for the Chiefs. Everyone knows the stat. There hasn't been a receiver catch 100 yards in a game. That should change tonight. I think tonight is the night. I am a fan of Rock Ya-Sin. Loved him coming out of Temple. He's physical at the line of scrimmage, but he's not incredibly fast. The rest of the secondary is kind of a toss-up. Trevon Moehrig is a second-year player at free safety who's solid, but he hasn't had that breakout moment as of yet. So it should be a big Travis Kelce night, which it always is. Just go to DraftKings and hit the anytime touchdown for Travis Kelce. You're going to make money. But I do think that, the test here for Kansas City tonight is just not shooting yourself in the foot. You can't have another Colts game, but the opportunities are there. This is a defense that is just ripe to be run over because they're not good in the secondary. And even while I think Max Crosby's great up front, they're not very good at defensive tackle. And so you're able to slide protect. You're going to be able to protect with 5 and get a lot of guys out to the formation. So I don't see why the Chiefs lose unless it's fluke stuff, unless there's an opening kickoff fumble, things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way you lose this game is if you truly hurt yourself as opposed to just playing it straight up.
Yeah, I have said, throughout the week leading up to this game that if you're looking for a game for that breakout performance, I think you kind of mentioned it about from a Chiefs wide receiver, that this could be one of those games. We haven't really seen that yet, whether it was, Juju, MVS, Sky Moore, McCole Hardman. I know he's banged up dealing with the heel injury. But if you're looking for a game on the schedule coming up that may start to feel a little bit better about the Chiefs wide receivers, if we get really nitpicky, I think maybe last week you were the one had mentioned, if you really want to get picky with the Chiefs, it was the wide receiver group. Haven't seen that breakout performance. Maybe this is going to be one of those times. And Tucker Franklin let us know that Travis Kelce is minus 150 for any time touchdown on DraftKings. So there you go. There's the line. If you want to go
easy,
make a few bucks, he's always a good bet there. But you kind of touched on it with a fluky thing, but finish a sentence. If the Raiders win the game tonight, it's because of blank. What has to happen for everything to go right for the Raiders to pull out a victory tonight at Arrowhead?
I mean, a Mahomes injury. I don't even like those words coming out of my mouth, but I think it takes something like that. I mean, even with the Colts, you knew okay, they could out physical you at some degree. If they got in a situation where they could run the ball, their offensive line would, could do that. They just can't be in a situation where they have to pass to win, as we've seen. So I think with the Raiders, it's somewhat similar. Obviously they can score with Devontae Adams and Derek Carr, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Hunter Renfrow. We know the roster, right? But I think the Chiefs secondary matches up pretty well with them. I do think the Raiders will score. I don't think this is a game where you walk away 42-3. The Raiders should be able to put some points up, but for them to win, I think truly that is it. It's the only way is if something were to happen on offense to one of the key players, Orlando Brown, Travis Kelce, it would have to take something like that.
Yeah. The one thing I will say that's in the Raiders' favor, because normally when they play at Arrowhead, there's a lot to be made, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but Derek Carr has just struggled at Arrowhead stadiums. It's generally been later in the season when it's cold. I don't know if his hands are small, or I don't know what the deal is with that dude in cold weather, or just in cold weather at Arrowhead Stadium. But he'd struggle quite a bit.
It goes back to that Thursday night game where he got hurt. It was cold. It was 8 degrees that night, and my man has not played well there ever since.
Yeah, but like you said, that Devontae Adams is a dude. He's very much a dude, and so is Darren Waller. I mean, they've got some weapon. Josh Jacobs is not a bad player at all. Darren Waller is a stud at tight end. Hunter Renfrow probably doesn't get enough credit, and he hasn't really had the impact.
He's been out a couple weeks. Yeah.
Okay,
but
coming
back tonight, you would think.
Renfro, Adams, Waller, Jacobs, like they've got some pieces, but the offensive line is there. I think this is a great
I was going
opportunity
to
for
say,
George Karlaftis. This could be a big night for him.
yeah, Frank Clark should have a big night. George Karlaftis, this could be. I just don't know how they slow down that Kansas City defense that's been playing. I mean, we've talked about it every Monday. They're playing lights out. And even, you want to get Josh Jacobs going. Okay, well, the Chiefs' run defense has been amazing this year. So I think it's easier said than done. Okay, well, here's what I would conceptually try to do. Good luck. And we know the Chiefs score early and often. This can be a first quarter team that is very tough to keep up with. So if the Raiders get behind, Josh Jacobs is a non-factor, and this offensive line I don't think is good enough to hold up when hey, they're throwing 66% of the time because they have to try to keep up.
Yeah. And right now we're going to take on some questions and some comments from those who are watching along on YouTube. So if you are watching this on YouTube and you have any questions or thoughts about tonight's game, please shoot those over. And while you're at it, please hit the like and subscribe button and turn those notifications on. We're actually doing a second screen watch party tonight for the game. So if you're not going to Arrowhead Stadium or you're not in the Kansas City area and you want to hang out with some other Chiefs fans, put the game on, put the Manningcast on your other TV and put us on your tablet or your phone. Kent Swanson and Tucker and myself will be hanging out at the Kingdom Bar and Grill out in Overland Park, doing a little second screen watch party. So you can, follow along the game with us and, feel like you're watching it with a bar full of people. It's always a good time out there. So, but hit that like and subscribe button. It lets us know that we're doing something right. And obviously the way the YouTube algorithm works, it reaches more people. So we'd appreciate hitting that like and subscribe. But Tucker, let's start bringing some questions and some comments up right now. All right, this is from Oregon Fishing. With Juju possibly limited, should they let Sky loose with his great route running and hands to have a breakout game? Matt, I'll add a little context to this. I know one of the things coming out of camp, when you kind of try to read between the lines as far as what they're saying, not that Sky isn't coming along, not that he doesn't understand the offense, but there's a lot put on wide receivers in Andy Reid's system.
Yeah.
And it's not just put him out there, let him figure it out. If he doesn't know what to do, it is catastrophic for this. It's not like he just has a run and out route and that's all he has to worry about. It is not like that at all.
If he doesn't know what he's doing, it's an interception. Yeah.
It screws everything up because even if he runs the wrong way, his defender goes into an area that the play is not designed to have a dude in there. And so it's not uncommon for players in this system. Chris Conley, brilliant player that Chiefs fans are more familiar with from his time. And now that he's back, which is awesome, is one of my son's favorite players. I never had the heart to tell him he wasn't in Kansas City anymore. And now I can just say he's back and everything's been fine. But Chris Conley, I remember him saying it took me like 3 years to really understand this offense because of the way that it's set up. And we said before, they don't call plays, they call concepts. And once you run out to your position, you read the defense, everyone has to see it the same way. And if you're not 100% on board or comfortable with what you're doing, it literally screws up everything around you. If you run a slant when you're supposed to run it out, you just brought a defender somewhere where Patrick Mahomes didn't think a defender was going to be. And so I'm not going to pretend to know exactly how it works, but
it's pretty close. Yeah, I think that's
sorry.
No,
ask for a little context. I gave you a lot of it, but
back to his question. I think this is a game where Sky can have an opportunity for some really good matchups because we talked about the lack of stars in that Las Vegas secondary. There's not great depth in that secondary either. So, if you look at, can Sky Moore cook Nate Hobbs? That's a pretty good matchup for Sky. I think Nate played well last year. I think he struggled early this year, but I'm with you, BJ. I would, if there was an over/under on catches for Sky Moore, I would probably stay on the underside. I do feel like he's a next year player more than he is this year. So over/under 2.5 catches. Yeah, that Vegas is good at those at the handicapping. So it does feel like could he break out potentially, but I think it will be more of Juju, maybe Mecole tonight a little bit, as opposed to finally seeing Sky Moore have that breakout game.
Yeah, I see King Jamie the Mad commented, do we have to listen to Aikman and Buck tonight? Those two are not good at commentary. People just hate. Joe Buck. I kind of understand it, but I think he's
it's the World
phenomenal
Series stuff.
I know,
you know?
but and it was Madison Bumgarner. I get where a lot of it comes from.
Yeah.
He kind of rides the wave of whoever is playing.
But
well
you and I know how hard that job, and I'm not just saying this because I work at ESPN. You and I know how hard that job is to do.
Yeah.
And so I like it's everybody's right to criticize whatever they want to criticize, but I think that job is infinitely harder than people realize. That's all I'll say.
And all I'm going to say is that just turn the volume down and put on our second screen watch party. You can listen again, and Tucker. We're going to take different turns. We're not going to be up there the whole time, but we'll take different turns. Somebody will always be live on this YouTube channel. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, and as soon as we go live, you will know it. So Tucker, what else do we got? Bring some more comments and questions up here. All right. Cheddarhead says, do you think Karlaftis has the best game of his young career tonight? Matt?
Man, I definitely think so. Good opportunity. I mean, the Raiders' offensive line has definitely struggled. I think I don't even know who's playing right tackle tonight. Kid from A&M, I think, who's probably better guard than tackle will be out there. So I do think this is a good opportunity. You're obviously Chris Jones is playing like a man possessed. He's going to get a lot of attention, and that interior has struggled for Las Vegas. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a sack and a half, maybe, and a couple hurries tonight from Karlaftis. I know that's your guy, BJ.
That is my guy, and I picked him to break Derek Thomas's rookie sack record of 10 sacks, and he doesn't have any. He's had a lot of pressures. He's had a lot of pressures. He's gotten a lot of credit for disrupting plays, but hasn't brought down the quarterback yet. So there's nothing like a 3-sack night to get you back on track and pacing for this. And your guy from Texas A&M, Jermaine Elemoiner.
Yeah. That's who it is.
I'm not going to pretend to be able to say his name. I expect to hear a lot tonight, whether he's jumping off sides because of the noise at Arrowhead or because he's getting dominated.
Missing on Alex Leatherwood really set that offensive line back.
Yeah. All right, Tucker, what else do we got? All right, Pat Mahomey. Here's an actual question. How do I get my fiance, soon-to-be wife, to get invested into the Chiefs? Ooh, Matt, I'm going to take this one first because I have a good one for this. The folks at 65 TPT, the in-house production team for the Kansas City Chiefs, have made a handful, and this is going back like a decade, when Jodain Massad and Rob Alberino, who's now back in charge of everything, back when he was originally there getting 65 TPT started, before I had worked at the Chiefs, they had done some phenomenal documentaries on the history of the team, Kingdom episodes on guys like Joe Delaney. Go watch the Joe Delaney Kingdom episode and learn about Joe Delaney, learn about the history. And once you get somebody emotionally invested and kind of caught up in the emotionality of what is going on, the fandom becomes that much stronger. And you connect people on an emotional level and not just stats and Mahomes is great. Watch these highlights. Kind of get back to like the foundation of how we all became Chiefs fans and why we all feel that way. Take her to Arrowhead if you have the ability to. But I would strongly recommend going back and watching some of those older documentaries because folks at 65 TPT back then and even now with the franchise, they do a phenomenal job. I just think there's something generational about watching the documentaries and kind of the players before that kind of set the stage, and the mystique of Arrowhead was built back with a lot of the stories that were told with those documentaries. So that would be my guess, or my idea, I should say.
I got lucky and married a Chiefs fan, so did pretty well there. Our first date was actually watching a 49ers game on TV, so I definitely got lucky there. I do think one thing, a lot of my female friends are really into like fantasy football. So I think the fantasy element is big. If you live in Kansas, there's the gambling element. I'm not saying, put a mortgage payment on it, but, say, hey, let's take $25 and let's bet on some games, because nothing will make you watch football more intently than having something riding on the game. So whether that's, hey, I got a fantasy player I got to watch, or we could have a free date night if this bet hits this week. So I think that's a little more like fun way, and then maybe dive into the documentaries that BJ mentioned. But I know that even like my wife will watch a game more closely if I'm like, hey, if this hits, we're going out this weekend. You get to pick where we go, or we might have a vacation if this team wins tonight. So as much as she hates hearing about my fantasy team, I do think those are good ways to get them involved.
Yeah, I just started stop betting like the single game parlay because I'm terrible at betting. So now my strategy is like the $5 15 leg parlays.
Which
I'm If I get like more than half, it's great.
I have a
but
buddy, and every weekend he puts $10 on like a 10-leg parlay, and I'm like, man, just give me $170, and I'll like you're giving Vegas $10 every week, which is I know it's not a lot of money, but like over the course of a season, and he's probably doing Saturday and Sunday. So really, like, give me $340. Just call it a wash, because you're never gonna hit a 10-leg $10 bet.
But you have as much chance of hitting it as anyone who's ever hit it before, Matt.
That's true, which is like three.
That's
people.
what I say
Yeah,
every time I buy
right?
Powerball tickets. Like, you know what? I have as much chance of winning as anyone who's ever won before.
Someone has to win, right?
Or just keeps growing. And then eventually somebody's got to win. All right. We got time for maybe two more questions here from people watching on YouTube. Again, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. All right. Sneaky Jack attack. Over under 10 tackles for Nick Bolton.
Oh, I'm gonna go over. I'm jumping in on you on this one. I think over. I don't think he's quite averaging 10 total tackles per game, but it's got to be really, really close to that. And I do think we'll try to see the Raiders at least early establish the ground game, because that's what's worked in the past against Kansas City. So I'll take the over on that one.
Yeah, he's at 37, so he's just under. You were exactly right. He's a little over 9 tackles a game, but yeah, it was another one of my $25 free bets I had put on Nick Bolton to lead the NFL in tackles. So
I mean, he
have a better chance of that one
through 4. Yeah,
got a better chance of that one than I did. I also picked Frank Clark to lead the league in sacks, and that was at 15,000. So that's a big
one.
one.
Does Frank have one? Is that right?
Does he have one?
I think he
yes,
might
he
have
does.
one.
He's got.
I think he got one last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Chiefs leader right now in sacks is L'Jarius Sneed. Defensive back.
Love those corner blitzes. Yeah.
Spags loves it. Threaten Ron Parker's franchise record. All right, one more question then to finish this one up. Does Mahomes pass Aikman in career passing touchdowns tonight? I think to pass him, I think he has to hit 5, and I think 4 is to tie.
Yeah.
Tucker, please jump in here, somehow get my attention. Let me know if that is incorrect. But I think we read Bobby's tweet earlier. I think he needs 5 to break it, 4 to tie it. What do you think?
I'm going to say no. I don't. I love Patrick. We have 5 in the opener, and he was like kind of fired up. I think he had a long summer. He was kind of pissed off at some people. So I think it's been a quiet week. I don't know if the Kansas City Stars put out anything talking bad about him this week or not.
Should.
So we're probably
it's helpful.
We're probably
when they do.
good. If somebody could do that real quick, that'd be great. So I'm going to say no. I don't think he hits 5 tonight.
I'm going to say no, only because a lot of, and I don't want to call them garbage passing touchdowns, but if you've paid attention to what's happening around the league, everyone in the league is trying the goal line shovel pass now. The Bengals tried it. It was probably the worst example of someone trying that play last night. I did see that with Joe Burrow attempting that pass. I believe, you don't know, but it looked like La'el Collins did the wrong thing.
I hope to God that's what Carson Wentz was trying to do on those 3 attempts down there, but
I didn't see that one.
I don't know.
I don't think I need to.
It's another story for another day.
All right, Tucker, do we have any other good ones? We could steal one more. That was a quick one. All right, Kyle Coffey, why did the Raiders suck?
When you have a regime in there that misses on 5 or 6 first-round picks, that'll do it. And all 7 rounds are important, right? Free agency is important. So you miss on Antonio Brown there. You miss on so many first-round draft picks. And maybe I'm biased because my job is to cover the draft, but I think you can look around the NFL right now, teams that are good. It's, Cincinnati's turnaround was all fueled by the draft. Kansas City, fueled by the draft. And I think it's important as the entire offseason is now. You got to be able to hit those draft picks. And they didn't. And, for all the Max Crosby love, it's a lot of first-round picks. Henry Ruggs, Damon Arnett, Alex Leatherwood, Cleveland Ferrell, even Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Abrams have not lived up to their expectations or draft position. So I think it's quite simple when you look at it.
Yeah. Jonathan Abrams, 24, is the guy that every time the Chiefs play the Raiders, I'm always worried about 24 doing something cheap.
I was going to say, will he get thrown out tonight might be the better bet. Like, will he be ejected? What's the over-under on personal
when it's
fouls?
our guys, I say it's playing through the echo of the whistle. But when it's that dude, it just reminds me of like Romanowski and like those types of, like, you're just going to watch him. I don't know how much he talks. I don't know his personality like that at all, but I'm always worried about 24 coming in late and doing something cheap. And you always got to worry when you play those dudes.
Yeah. Was it the Booger Mobile that took him out a couple years ago that he hit his head on? I think because
so.
it was a late hit and he got knocked himself out on the sideline. So yeah. Anyway.
And somebody went up and mossed him a few years ago. The Chiefs did. I don't know if it was DeMarc. I can't remember exactly who it was. Tucker is very quickly. Darrell Williams. No, that's right. Darrell Williams went up and mossed Jonathan Abram over that. So that was great. And the one thing I will leave with, Matt, and I don't know how you feel about this, because I don't know if you've had a chance to go to a Raiders game or been out to Allegiant yet, but it's almost like an identity thing for me that's just weird with the Raiders, because going from Oakland and the Coliseum, it was kind of like, it was a shithole, but it was like their shithole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was such a terrible stadium. And the Raiders fans just kind of almost embraced it in a way that became kind of their identity of just these rough, like, we're just going to come in. We don't care what's around. We're just going to try to kick the hell out of you.
Yeah.
And now their stadium, which is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's an amazing stadium, but it feels like you're in a giant nightclub. And it just, to me, it doesn't fit the brand of what the Raiders are, or what they've been. So it's kind of like an identity crisis. Maybe that's just the bias in me coming out. We went out there for the East-West Shrine Bowl, visiting our friend, Eric Galco, hanging out and just being able to walk around that stadium and see it. I mean, again, it is immaculate. It is a beautiful stadium, but it just doesn't scream Raiders brand to me at all.
The Rams last year ruined my theory that teams with like new stadiums can't win, because it softens you up a little bit. You know, like you have all like, God, this place is nice. Like, no, you need to like get to play in Lambeau or like Gillette, you know, which Gillette's a nice stadium, but it's like, it's open air. You're going to freeze your ass off, you know. Arrowhead, you're tested a little bit more in those stadiums. So I can see that. You know, I haven't been to that stadium yet. I've driven by it a couple of times. Not a big Vegas guy. I know that probably surprises people who know me. Not a big Vegas guy.
We got to experience taking Tucker Franklin, our producer, to Vegas for his first trip, and he was overstimulated most of the time.
Overstimulated, overserved, everything.
There was a lot going on, and I don't know if it was the $28 cocktails at the Las Vegas Golden Knights game that we went to, or whatever it was, but it was Vegas is it's an acquired taste. I used to go a lot and had a lot more fun than I do now going out there. I love the Shrine Bowl. I love what Eric's doing. We're going to go out there again this year, but yeah, it always just seems a little strange to me. But if I'm going to give any kind of credit to the Raiders, I will say that I have respect for the players that had to deal with the Coliseum. They, like a Derek Carr, he has earned the right to have a nice stadium for a few years. I hope he doesn't win, but just from a personal standpoint, he seems like a good dude.
Yeah, like he deserves to live in Henderson after living in the greater Oakland area
I'm pretty sure they all lived in San Francisco. Like, I'm pretty sure, just like when we went out,
I don't know.
Like when the Chiefs stayed, we didn't stay near Oakland. We stayed over in San Francisco and had like a 45-minute with like, a police escort. It was still a hike to get over to the stadium each time that we played out there. But Matt, man, always appreciate chatting with you. We'll do it again next week. That time it'll be after a game. We appreciate everybody who tuned into this live episode or is, quickly listening to the podcast before kickoff tonight. Again, Chiefs and Raiders, little after 7:00, and we will be having our second screen watch party on this YouTube channel during the game tonight. Ken Swanson, Tucker, and I will be at the Kingdom Bar and Grill in Overland Park. So appreciate all your support. Again, hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you for the game tonight. Hopefully the Chiefs moving on to 16-3 under Andy Reid against the Raiders. Until next time, we'll see y'all later.